U.S. President Donald Trump is growing incredibly impatient with Russia, according to Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance's statement comes a day after Trump performed a stunning U-turn at the UN, suggesting that Ukraine could not only retake all of the region it lost to Russian military, but even more. Russia, rejecting Trump's claim, said that the idea that Ukraine can recapture something is highly mistaken. Moscow also bristled at the accusation that it was weak, while pushing back at Trump's characterization of Russia as a paper tiger. Now, Russia's defense ministry claimed that the Ukrainian army lost about 1,500 of its troops in clashes with Russian forces across all combat areas, and that's the number in the past 24 hours. In a meeting on Wednesday, top U.S. diplomat Marco Rubio apparently clashed with his Russian counterpart, calling for the killing to stop and demanding Moscow should take meaningful steps towards a durable resolution. Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov fired back and stressed that the unacceptability of the schemes promoted by Kiev and some European capitals aimed at prolonging the conflict. This, according to a readout of their conversation released by the Russian side. Russian officials shared pictures said to show the aftermath of a Ukrainian drone strike on the southern Russian port city of Novorossiysk that killed 2 people and wounded 6 others. And for more on this and on what Trump said and Moscow rejecting that Kiev could perhaps take up the land that they lost, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from the UN headquarters in New York.
On the sidelines of UNGA 80 in New York, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov just hours after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered a forceful address. Zelensky warned that failure to check Russia would unleash, quote, the most destructive arms race in history, urging decisive global action. The Lavrov-Rubio meeting comes amid a striking shift. President Trump now says Ukraine can reclaim all of its lost territory, including Crimea, with NATO and EU support, a departure from his earlier posture. Before their meeting, Marco Rubio had warned that if the Ukraine war doesn't end, the U.S. will take the steps necessary to impose costs for continued aggression. Analysts say the exchange will now test whether or not Washington and Moscow can negotiate increments in diplomacy or whether hard rhetoric will cement escalating tensions. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.